Everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, March 26th of 2023. Now, as usual, I have my notebooks, my notebook full of notes, and the main thing that really kind of kept coming to my awareness this week with just the interactions I had with different people and a couple of little things I'm going to share with you is how important our worldview is. And I know that for me, this can be a little bit tricky because I like to know what's going on in the world. I like to keep abreast of economic situations. I like to keep abreast of political things to a certain extent, just so that I can have the awareness to make the right decision and that I can be prepared. But what I find is there tends to be a really fine line and a really good balance to not going too deep and too far in some of these things that we look at and we study, because we can always watch things that confirm our worldview and talk to people and listen to things. You know, the podcasts we listen to, the things that we watch can keep confirming our worldview, whether that's in a positive way or a negative way, whether that's for one political party or another, whether that's whatever it is that you're looking at. I mean, there are so many things. But the thing that's interesting is we get so caught and so solid in our egotistical worldview that we feel is right, that I think we're missing the whole point of being here. There's a certain amount of things that we simply can't change. Now, we can change so much, but there are things we can't control what someone else is doing. We can't control what the government's doing. I mean, we can certainly vote and we can be involved and we can make sure that we do the things that we know are going to make a difference. But I'm talking about feeling this angst and anxiety on what is happening in the world. And I've really decided this week that what I needed to do was be really, really strategic about the things that I let in to my awareness, into my brain, the things that I watch. And I've spent a lot of time the last probably the last 2 years especially, watching and listening to different people's accounts of their near-death experience. And I find them to be really consistent with a lot of the things that these people experience, but they give me a lot of hope. And I find that, okay, if I'm going to keep up on what's going on in the world with, right now there's some crazy economic stuff that is starting to come to fruition. It's not just starting to happen. If you pay attention and you maybe have some something intuitive in you that understands how business works or money works or how the economies work and what makes them crash and whatever, there's a lot of really crazy stuff happening. So what I find is that in order to balance, if you will, some of these things that I watch that are happening, because I don't want to be a doomsdayer, but I just want to be prepared. I want to be aware. I want to be able to, be in a place where I can help others. I can be there for my family, whatever. But if I don't balance it with some of these deeper truths that I know to be true for us, and this is all based on my worldview. I know a lot of people, and maybe a lot of you that are watching this, might have a very different worldview. And I really believe that that's okay. This is a place of learning, of growth. We are at this incredible time in human history where we get to see big changes happening and watch the chaos, and sometimes, maybe if you can say hope for the best, but we can't live our life in these depths of fear and depression and anxiety and exclude others because their worldview is different. A few months ago, actually it was probably about 2 months ago, I shared a story in a video with some very good friends of mine, and we used to travel the world with them, and for 20 years. And at the beginning of the pandemic, and everyone was starting to wear masks, and it was becoming mandatory and all of that, I couldn't do that. That was just something, no matter how, and I didn't even try. I was just like, that is not for me. And this particular couple, they refused to see me. And that's, you might have remembered that story, but I reached out to them a couple months ago. I sent them an email, and they both responded. And one of them responded, they responded separately. I sent them the same email. They responded separately. And one of them sent me an email basically saying that it was nice to hear from me, but we all have to face the consequences of our actions. And I didn't really think too much about it. But then as these last couple of months have gone on, I've realized, because there's been no move to try to reconnect in person, even though we live in the same city. So I've come to really think that maybe the consequences that he's talking about is the fact that my consequence is that I don't get to be in their life anymore. And, I might be making an assumption. I might be breaking one of the 4 agreements. But what I've realized is, when we first started talking about this at the beginning of the pandemic, we realized very quickly that our worldviews were so polar opposite of what was happening. And as I would send them things and try to communicate, and we would send we would send each other articles and videos, and we would send each other things back and forth. There reached a point pretty early on when I got a very tense response on a text that said, "Stop sending us stuff. We do not want to change our worldview." And that's when it all just kind of stopped. And I was like, okay. And so these past 3 years, I really thought about that. And I've thought about that in the case of myself too. Like, how can I be more open, more loving, and realize that if people have a different worldview than me, and not if, when. I mean, my worldview is different than people in my own family. That this is the way that we walk through this life, is with different viewpoints. And I don't want to be caught in my viewpoint to the place where I am not willing to be open and listen and have good discussions, because you have to think about it this way. We are all on this planet in this lifetime right now together. We are here together. And there might be some people who will cut you out of their life, and there might be some people that you need to kind of gently separate from too. All of those things are okay. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen when we transition? We transition out of this lifetime into whatever is next. I mean, if you've had a near-death experience, or you know someone who has, or maybe you've studied many people who have, and I've really, really, truly loved watching and being inspired by the pure, beautiful calmness of these people who've had a near-death experience. They don't worry about anything in life. They experience something that sounds so amazing. The fact that there's just a place of unconditional love that happens right away. We see it. We'll see it right away. I know the moment that we all transition, we're going to all see it. So it's funny, because I actually have a really good friend. I met her when I first moved to Salt Lake City, which was about 25 or 26 years ago. She was one of the very first people I met. Now, I met her in the gym, which is sometimes where I found my most dear lifelong friends. And I think that's just because you have that one thing in common, where you're moving your physical body, and there's that instant connection with someone that's like-minded. So Michelle, if you're watching this, a big shout out. You are still one of my favorite people on the planet. So when I first met Michelle, like I said, we were in the gym, we had this instant connection, and for many years, we worked out together. And then she retired and moved out of state, and we still stayed connected. And the beautiful thing is she is one of those people who is so in tune to her higher self, to the consciousness, to that God part of all of us. And as we've gone through these last 3 years, and we've actually reconnected on a more regular basis, just because we're just kind of like, our worldview is very, very similar. And one of the things that she said is, this is the last time I want to come here. I'm going to learn all the lessons that I have to learn. I want as much growth and advancement and, evolvement and all of that. Because she is a person who believes in many times we come here to learn lessons, we come to burn off karma, we come to realize that we are a part of God, and part of it, we come to simply experience all of the things that we can't experience as a soul. We have to come to earth with a physical body to be able to know contrast and to be able to know pain and really good health, and to know love and to know bitterness. And we can't know these emotions and all of these things that we get to experience in this physical body unless we have a physical body. But it's interesting because it's kind of like these last 3 years, and I remember we were saying this a few months in, we're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? How can people not see what's happening? And then it just kind of seemed to get a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. And it was like, this is just a little too much. This is the last time we want to be here. Let's be as evolved and aware and as enlightened as we possibly can. Let's do as much good in the world. Let's be unconditionally kind and loving. And this is it. When we transition, we don't want to come back. This planet is too dense. So it's just been fascinating to me to watch these different things. And my thing is that I really want to just kind of impart to you in today's video is really, really pay attention to the things that take your time and your energy. And maybe you're just watching things over and over and over to cement your worldview. And I know that with a lot of stuff that's out there, from the things that I've personally been watching these last 3 years and reading and things that people have shared with me, is that a lot of times it's always worse. It's always said to be worse than it really is. And I'm not saying things aren't getting a little crazy and a little gnarly. That there is no doubt that we are having some big changes and big transitions are coming. I mean, even just the whole economic thing with, the banks, these 3 banks that have just failed. And, I think that's the tip of the iceberg. And it's not because I'm a doomsayer or because I've gone down some rabbit holes and that's the only thing I see. It's because I feel like I've always been interested in how money works. And that's just my own personal brain. I've been interested in different countries and different markets and different currencies. When I was in my early 20s, my husband and I moved to, he was in the military. This was my first husband, but we moved to Germany and we lived there for 3 years. And there was this whole different mind shift living in another country, learning about different currencies. This was way before the euro was even a thing. So every time we would go to Italy or to Austria or to Switzerland or Holland, while we were living there was always different currencies. And money has just always fascinated me, and the way different economies work and different people work. And, so as I've watched, especially these last 3 years, and the way our governments, and it's not just our government, but around the world, things are changing and they're shifting big. And I do think that it's less painful for many, many people not to change their worldview or even acknowledge that there's something different happening. And that's their journey. I will not lie. There have been times when I've wanted to shake people and not in a mean way, but just, look, just at least look at this. At least look at it so that you can make a better decision, or you can, whatever that may be. So I wrote down a few things that are kind of along the lines of that, but I think right now our biggest job is to simply show up and allow things to happen the way they're supposed to. And I'm not talking about not being proactive. Most of us, and I'm saying this because of the groups and the people that I surround myself with, even with many of you who reach out and on an email or some of the comments I get below these videos, I know that many of you are on a similar path as I am. But I think what happens is we need to realize showing up can look different for all of us. But sometimes we're not simply showing up. We are staying in our house. We are staying in with our circle, not willing to open up an uncomfortable conversation and have a good civilized conversation with people who disagree with us. It's not going to change anything by arguing with people. So we need to show up, and we need to allow. We need to allow the world, the universe, God, to let things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So here's another nice and rather cool thing I wrote down. Diffuse with kindness and love. Always treat people the way you would want to be treated. Of course, the golden rule, right? Realize that humanity is going through a lot right now, and many people won't realize it. Now, I have a really cool person that I met at a mastermind a few years ago, and I've stayed in touch with him only through social media and only online and stuff. And he's got a gift with words, and he's a coach. His name is Jesse Elder, and sometimes he posts the most beautiful thoughts that I just have to go, oh my goodness, this person is a highly evolved spiritual being. And I found a post that he did a couple days ago, and I just wanted to share it with you. So this is a post that was written by my friend Jesse Elder, and he's in Texas, and a shout out to Jesse. I think you're an amazing human. So this is from him. Birth is a death of sorts. Death is another birth. And each day we are here is a new emergence into a fresh reality that can either repeat the cycles of yesterday or gently trend in new directions. You can love, you can fear, you can dream, you can hold back. You can scream, you can hide. You can defend, you can attack. You can conform, you can intend. You can make an enemy, you can make a friend. But you can't get it wrong because you never get it done. There's just now, and next, eternally. Maybe your soul is just playing a cosmic Xbox with your human as the character. I know mine is, and since this human life seems at once both fleeting and long, I wish for nothing more than more of what I already have. And I wish for you whatever you wish for you. If you have the ability to imagine it, the world can deliver it. Just focus on what you want and ignore everything else. Won't be long before you start to get new reflections coming back to you. Sometimes it's just the faintest whisper, but it will become more if you let it. Proof of your ability to bring about change inside and out. You'll see it if you believe it. And I have every certainty that right now, you're right where you need to be. Oh, that to me just spoke to my soul. And I read that a couple times, and I'm like, okay, I am going to share that beautiful, beautiful statement. That Jesse, these things just flow out of him, and these are the kind of people that I love meeting when I go to different masterminds and connect with people. And I don't connect with everyone when I go on some of these retreats and the things that I've been lucky to do. I haven't been on one for a while. I did go to a small one in October last year, and it was brilliant, and it rekindled my desire to get out and reconnect with people that I know vibrate in the same energy and love, and the realization that we are these infinite beings, and we are an expression of God. We are part of God, and when we realize that, it's not an egotistical thing. It's just a beautiful thing, and it helps you realize that in every single person you see and every single person you connect with, if you can see the God that is in them, because that every person has that, they might not realize it. They might be a person who considers themselves an atheist. They might be someone who believes completely different than you, and they might not even realize the divine spark that they are. And that's okay. Like, that is the journey that they've chosen to come down and experience. But this whole worldview thing, I think if we're to realize the potential and the power and how fast we can swap our worldview from something that feels dark and negative, even if it's just in moments. It might be moments during your day. I can say with certainty, I experience those too. You know, I'll watch something or I'll listen to something that is happening in the world and it feels, okay, that feels really true. And it puts me in a bit of depression about, oh, this just feels so heavy. And I have to literally do something, typically something physical, to get myself out of that. And I've learned that I can't look at certain things right before I go to bed or even a few hours. I mean, the evenings, I try to disconnect from anything that might affect my sleep and my dreams and the things that my subconscious starts to kind of manifest and think about. I've had many nights where I've woken up and I just lay there thinking about all these things that seem so dark and so heavy because I've just put them into my awareness right before I go to bed. So that would be something I would really, really encourage you to pay attention to. Now, the last thing that I'm going to end this with is something really, really cool. And this is, again, it can be definitely something that affects not just your worldview, but it can affect the health that your body expresses while you're here in this human form. And I found this, I can't remember where it was, but I wrote this down into a really cool thing that it just shows you how powerful the human body is, that we literally have a pharmacy inside of us. So I'm going to kind of read what I wrote down here. The most sophisticated pharmacy in the universe is in your brain. It's called the hypothalamus, and it produces chemicals on demand. Now, I want you to really think about this. It produces chemicals on demand consistent with the way you think, feel, and perceive. So if you feel brave, you'll produce a chemical called interleukin-2, which is the most efficient chemical for fighting cancer worldwide. There's actually an artificial interleukin-2 that costs between $6,000 and $8,000 per course. So they make an artificial chemical that your body produces. Your brain makes this chemical when you are brave. When you do something that's brave, and I'm not saying something that risks your life, but say something that, here I will say this, and now that we're 22 minutes in, we've reached a point where I know that there's a certain amount of people who are still watching that will totally get this. So when everyone was wearing masks and I just couldn't do it, I would go into places even as simple as the post office, and I would go to drop some packages off where I wouldn't have to interact with a teller who would basically not let me interact unless I did. I would just go in and drop something off, and I was the only one who wasn't wearing one. The first few times I did that, my heart was racing, which I was like, I am like a 60-year-old person, and how is that something that was making my heart race? But here's the deal. When you do little things, when you do things, not even something like that, you might think that that is totally ridiculous on my part, but anything that feels brave. And here's another thing I did. When I actually reached out to my two local representatives, the local senator in my city and the local in the House of Representatives. So I reached out to these two people that I didn't even know that they were my representatives, and I had questions for them because I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to get involved. And I asked if I could please meet with both of them to express my concerns about what was happening. This was in 2020. And I met the woman who was my representative. I met her at her house, and I had to be brave to do that. And I've had to be brave, as I'm sure many of you have, during many times of your life. So the cool thing is when you use that one thing about being brave, your body produces this amazing chemical called interleukin-2, which is the most potent cancer-fighting chemical in the world. And your body produces it naturally. And all you have to do is be brave. And you can be brave about little things, right? Okay, so I love that. Your body produces it in the right quantities to go to the right place at the right time. So your body produces it. It knows exactly where it needs to go, and it knows exactly the time it needs to go there. That to me is so awesome. When you feel calm, so there's your second emotion, when you feel calm, you produce your own Valium. You don't need Valium from Big Pharma. It comes with all its horrible side effects. When you can put yourself in a calm state, hence meditation, prayer, a walk in nature, when you can put yourself into a calm state where you bring calmness to your body and to your brain, your thought process, you naturally produce Valium. It's perfection. We are so perfectly designed. So here's another one. When you feel happy, your body produces endorphins and enkephalians. I don't know how to pronounce that, but endorphins. We all know that when we feel happy. Think about how you feel. You feel like you've just had this big shot of caffeine. And as a person who's not a big coffee person, I do like green tea. I don't drink it every day, but I know I can feel a little bit of coffee or caffeine from drinking green tea, and every once in a while I'll have a coffee. Think about how you feel, but think about when something really big and beautiful just happened, or your wedding day and the happiness and the endorphins that just pushed out. Those chemicals are real and powerful, and your body produces them naturally. So the bottom line is this: your body has the ability to heal itself, provided you are thinking the right way. Ooh, I have shivers when I think that. When I say those words, your body has the ability to heal when you think and feel the right way. Thinking the wrong way produces the opposite effects. So always focus on the positive. Be brave, be calm, be happy, and be healthy. There it is, right? So keep your worldview in check. Really, really, I'm not saying give it up. I'm not saying, say I'm going to get a different worldview so I can be happier. I'm going to put my head back in the sand. In fact, I heard a thing. It made me think about the red pill and the blue pill like in the Matrix. And many of you might have heard, I've been red pilled these last 3 years. This has woken me up to a lot of things. And that might be true for a lot of people. And, I see people who've walked through this and they really don't see the depth of what is happening. And I can understand when in that movie, The Matrix, that one character has the option to take the blue pill or go back into the Matrix where he doesn't know anything that's happening underneath. It seems less painful, right? Well, I heard something else this week from my niece, and we just were having this great conversation, and it was basically like the black pill. This was about, taking the black pill. I'm like, what is that? And it was basically like, you find out all these things that seem really dark and really horrible, which there are things that happen that many of us don't see. And I'm not saying that we should keep our head in the sand. I think we need to be really aware, but we need to be very, very strategic and very, very careful. So that being said, I have a tickle in my throat. So I'm going to end this here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't been, I don't know if being red-pilled is the right word to say. Probably not. But I would say keep your world view open and stay in a place of love and kindness. And we're in for some big, beautiful things. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's a beautiful day to be alive, and I am grateful we're connected. So subscribe if you haven't already. Share if you think this might help someone or give them a little pop of encouragement about what, about what is happening with some of my perspectives. That would be awesome. So have a beautiful day and a beautiful week ahead, and we'll see you next time.